Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to Circle City Conversations. Thank you for joining me for our conversation today. Thank you to our sponsor, Hurst Lamontes, an Indiana law firm representing Hoosiers and their families for over 50 years. I'm here with who I would consider one of the OGs of personal injury lawyers. One of the best trial lawyers that I've had the pleasure of knowing, a husband, a father, and a mentor to me and so many others. Lee Christie, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
So, well, thank you for the invite. We're here in your office. I have so many memories here. Some of my first cases that I've mediated here. We'll talk a little bit about that. But tell me a little bit more about kind of like this location, like, why did you buy this really awesome old, kind of older home?
Yeah, so I started 42 years ago with a law firm you're very familiar with, Buddy Yosha's law firm that your partner was partners with for many years, the Eskenazi, Yosha, Mitchell, and Hurst law firm. And we were down on 22nd Street, so an old Sandor building, 22nd Meridian, kind of an old building. And then when my partners and I left Buddy Yosha's office, we started our firm down on Mass Avenue. We were there about 7 years. And in 2001, we decided to start looking for another building. And I actually found this building, brought my partners, and thought this is an awesome building for a law firm. It had never been a law firm, but it was a private residence for a while on what was then the north side of Indianapolis, about 900 or 1000 north.
Yeah.
And private residence for about 30 years, and then it became a funeral home for about 70 years.
Yeah.
And then it was just a bunch of different things over the years. It fell into disrepair, fixed up. And when we bought it from the Indiana Association of Credit Managers, it was just a building filled with 25 to 30 people making calls on credit applications.
Huh.
And so that was 2001. Been 23 years we've had this building, and thought it was just a perfect law office.
Yeah.
And it is, because it's got 5 or 6 fireplaces. The partners' offices, the old traditional big partners' offices all have a fireplace. We've got a great reception room, and then we have plenty of little conference rooms and areas for staff to sit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it works out perfect.
So you used to do some mediations here. And your partner before retired, Kevin. So this place is pretty much set up for, hosting individual conferences like a mediation, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's got, we put up some interior walls when we bought it and tried to replicate, I think Sheil Sexton did it, and tried to replicate the history and the framing and the crown molding and all that. But it allowed us to give some extra little private conference rooms for mediations. Kevin and I did for 20 years, probably thousands, I know thousands of mediations here and arbitrations. And we have this conference room, we have other conference rooms and rooms that people could sit. And you and Bill were guests here more than several times for mediations, and probably Bill or you for an arbitration. I don't remember.
Yeah. Definitely a lot of memories, getting cases resolved here. So let's backtrack a little bit. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself? Where are you from originally?
I'm from here, Indianapolis, never got out, started here and stayed here. I went to Arlington High School on the east side, so I've been an east side Indianapolis boy my whole life. Still live kind of more northeast, more central toward the north central area, but still inside the city. Love being in the city. Came from a large family, so I have a lot of family around here. And went to Indiana University for college, and then came back here, worked for Governor Bowen and Governor Orr as a security guard for the state police while I went to law school. So I went work during the day, or the evening shift. Sometimes I'd work that 11 to 7 shift, but worked and went to law school part-time. So it took me 4 years to get out.
Did you went to law school downtown?
Yep. IU Indianapolis at that time.
Did you was there a moment where you thought to yourself, I really want to be a lawyer? And do you remember that moment?
Yes. I remember wanting to be a lawyer, not for the altruistic reason that a lot of people want to be a lawyer to save the world, or to right the wrongs or defend the helpless, all those reasons. Like I said, I grew up with a large family. Our dad left when my mom was 7 kids. She was a school teacher, so raising 7 children on the Near East Side of Indianapolis. And I remember 7th grade thinking, I need to do something where I can make some money. Yeah. And I thought, maybe being a lawyer, those people look like they make money. So that's really when I started thinking, I need to keep my grades high. I need to keep, when I got to college, I thought I can't get arrested. I got to make sure that I can get into law school. So yeah, it was, I remember thinking that's what I want to do for the financial aspect of it.
Right.
When you get into it, as you know, Alex, you realize as a lawyer how many people you can help. Yeah. In so many ways. So in a way, you end up doing that. And I know a lot of lawyers think about that when they're younger. That's why they go into it, but certainly wasn't why I went into it.
Right. Well, when you're younger, life's a lot simpler, and your thought process is also simpler. Life gets more complex, right?
It does.
The older you get. So you did night school. Did you work full time during the day?
I did. Okay. Yeah, I worked for, like I said, the state of Indiana, state police, Governor Bowen. I was security for Governors Bowen and Orr, and would work different shifts. We would have different shifts that protected them at different hours, and I would adjust those depending on what classes I could get. So I would take certain classes and go through summer school, and ended up graduating on that 4th year. So I started in 78, but should have graduated. My class graduated in 81. I got out in 82. Okay.
When you were in law school, did you know what kind of law you wanted to practice?
I did, yeah. I wanted to be a tax litigator. So yeah, I was a business major at IU, not Kelly then, but School of Business. Yeah. And I was interested in litigation, but I was interested in business. So I took all the tax classes with Professor Jagan, and that's what I wanted to do. Life got me involved with Buddy Yosha's firm, and I played softball and basketball with those guys. And so I'm interviewing that last spring. And I told Yosha, I said, hey, it looks like I got an offer at Marion. I got an offer in Vincennes. It's just, general. One was a personal injury firm that did some personal injury in Marion, which was my first exposure to personal injury. And one was a general practitioner in Vincennes. And Buddy, as he said, why don't you just come work for me for a while? You can clerk for 6 months or so, be a glorified law clerk, and somebody offer you a job. And I said, yeah, that sounds better than me moving to Marion, Indiana or Vincennes. Right. So I started working there as a lawyer, and he just fed all of us. There were a lot of young guys there, young girls that were starting to practice because Mitchell Hurst had left. Yeah. They just left when I started there. So Buddy was a rainmaker, had all these cases, just kept feeding us cases, and I learned how to do injury work. So that's how I got started. And the funny thing is, there are a couple of the Buddy's, not partners, but he had other lawyers there that did like real estate work and different types of practices. They'd always ask me, hey, have you found a job yet? So 12 years later, when I left, I finally had a job away from Yosha. Yeah. When
you started, was that back when they had municipal court?
Yeah, oh, yeah. They had municipal court, which was a great training ground for young lawyers.
Yeah.
I tried, I don't know, maybe 12, I haven't counted them, but 10 to 15 cases, jury trials in municipal court. And it was a kind of baptism by fire.
Yeah.
You know, the older lawyers there would just give me something and go over and try it. And some cases I developed to try, but it gave you a chance, an opportunity to go try cases more than I think your generation, and as you know, even the newer generation now, it's hard to get jury trials because they're more involved. They cost a lot more. They take there's a lot more discovery, and the files that used to be, like a perfect example is John Townsend, who's, the Townsend and Townsend firm, not the oldest John, but John Jr., who's 78 or so. Mm-hmm. He was at my office for mediation in the 90s on Mass Avenue. And he came in with a complete file about an inch thick. And it was a wrongful death case. And it settled for over $2 million. And, nowadays you get a wrongful death case, it's boxes and boxes and boxes and drawers of files. So I think in the 80s, it was a lot easier to try little cases.
Yeah.
And then I think it's become more of an industry for experts.
Right.
And we have to pay the experts, and the rules require a little more specificity with the experts. So you got to hire them, you got to pay them. Both sides get them, all four sides get them, and it just becomes expensive. Yeah. So that's why that may be one reason there's not as many trials. Second reason is mediation started in the early 90s. Yeah. And there's a lot of mediation lawyers out there now, that they become trial lawyers by settling cases at mediation. Yeah. And they haven't tried as many cases because they're not trying as many, they're settling most of them. We settle, 98? Yeah. I think the statistics in federal court was 98.7% of all federal civil cases settled. And it's as high or higher than that in state court.
In state court. Yeah.
So I did a statistic on a seminar I gave from 1995 to 2015. And the state civil jury trials reduced from about 800 down to 2015. I haven't updated it. To 2015, it was 230 something.
Oh, yeah.
So that's total across the state civil jury trials.
Yeah.
About 800 a year, probably more than that prior to 95, but all the way down. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I've been in here in mediation with you before, and I tell clients you really can't try a case for less than $15,000, $20,000. Yeah.
So how are you going to go take somebody to trial that's got a decent injury of a neck or back injury, and 5,000 in medical bills or 10,000 medical bills? Right. You can't, and that's what good lawyers do. They have to advise their client the risk and benefits and costs of going forward, and the economics of it just don't make sense a lot of times.
Exactly. So did you ever get to try a case with Buddy?
I did, yeah.
You did? How was that?
It was interesting. Yeah. Buddy's a force. He's very meticulous in his preparation. Okay. And does a very thorough job. He trained all of us on how to work cases up. Okay. And I don't know, Bill wasn't there when I started. He had just left, and so I don't know Bill's style other than observing him. Right. At mediation and some. I think I attended some depositions he did early on, but both of them have a commanding presence. Yeah. And in the courtroom and even in a deposition. So I learned a lot from Buddy on how to try cases. We tried some assault and battery cases, got a great result against the Ramada Inn, a civil rape case that settled against Dave Mattingly in the middle of trial, civil rape case against an apartment complex for negligent supervision.
So you were trying those cases back in the 80s and 70s, negligent security type?
80, yeah. Buddy did, he kind of pioneered that civil rape case issue. And there's a ALR article, American Law Review, I think it was ALR article that Lance Klein, who worked on the case and tried it with him also, wrote for that. And it was kind of around the country how you work up these rape cases against, one was against apartment complex, and another was against Avis. Yeah, it was Avis. They had a driver that was a known sexual predator, had a history. He would work there, and they would have him drive the girls from the office in the airport at Weircook at that time to the parking lot. Imagine that, and imagine what happened to two different girls.
Wow!
So Buddy brought suit against Avis, and it became the Avis rape cases.
Oh my gosh!
It was. He's very meticulous in how he works up his cases. Yeah, and he wasn't afraid to spend money.
That's important.
Which back when he started in the 60s and 70s, a lot of lawyers didn't want to spend money because juries didn't give money. But I think Buddy figured out, you got to spend the money, you got to get the doctors, you got to spend this money to show them you have a legitimate case that's worth X dollars.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about your practice now. What are some of the areas of law that you practice in now?
Well, as you mentioned, I did. I have had a plaintiff's personal injury litigation practice for 42 years. In the early 90s, ITLA was looking into this process that's going on around the country called alternative dispute resolution. Mediations were the one big buzzword, and nobody in Indiana really knew what a mediation was. And actually, the trial lawyers were a little worried about it. We thought it was another insurance defense thing to get us off our game.
Right.
And so ITLA at that time sent a couple of us, asked a couple of us to go to Florida, look into. They were kind of the pioneers of what this mediation ADR practice was. And we came back, and because of that, I gave some speeches to ITLA and got involved in mediations and started this. I had a litigation practice going and a ADR practice going, a lot of mediations and arbitrations. And that went on for 20 years or so. And then finally, about 2014, I had a series of big cases coming up for trial. And I finally just said, I can't do both of them. So I quit the mediation ADR practice and went into all litigation, kind of back to all litigation. And that practice involves the same issue, personal injury, including car accidents and truck accidents. My office does a lot of medical malpractice. About 50% of our practice is medical malpractice, but Tina Bell, Chris Simpkins, and kind of Katie Marshall does some medical malpractice. I get medical malpractice cases, and I work on very few of them, and usually with Tina, because in my opinion, since she's been with us, she's just a fabulous mal attorney. So I do some products liability cases, I do premises cases, and those, it sounds like it's kind of specific, but all of those cases a lot of times kind of roll over into different. You get what somebody might not think is a premise case, like a garage door case that hurt somebody. I consider that a premises liability case, even though it involved all kinds of experts on the design of the garage door motor and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, or even, I talked to you about my negligent security case. There was two elements there. There was a premises case and a negligent security case. In that case. And so, anytime you can think outside of the box to do what's best for your client to get them the best result, I'm all about it. So You have nurse lawyers here, don't you?
We do.
Yeah. How many?
Right now, we only have one.
Okay.
Kathy Lee retired.
Okay.
She was also a nurse that became a lawyer.
Yeah.
And we had a doctor who was on staff.
Yeah.
And she decided her husband died and she got remarried.
Right.
So she's now left us, and we're kind of looking. It was really nice having a physician on staff for the med mal and even the personal injury stuff, because I would go talk to her and just get, causation issues with this particular injury. Could it come from this?
Yeah.
And just that resource. So it was worth it to have her on staff, and we're looking for somebody to replace her. But it's also helpful to have nurse attorneys. Because their basic understanding of the anatomy and the body is so helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just hired our first nurse consultant on staff. Yeah, part-time, but she's fantastic.
Yeah. Does she do case intakes too?
She does. She's going to do one today, actually. She does like a nursing home intake or med mal intakes, like very specific to what she does. I mean, because I really want her to be laser focused on that area.
Yeah, we have an intake person that's general, and I think of course, she's bright and she's developed kind of knowledge of the medical aspect just from doing all the intakes and looking up the words and things. But I would think for the medical malpractice, it really benefit to have the nurse or nurse consultant, somebody with a medical background, take that. Because for one reason, I think they can more quickly get to the issue.
Yes.
Because, these clients are suffering so much, they really want to tell their story. And medical malpractice is so hard and difficult. I think your office is probably the same. I mean, we probably accept 1 to 2 out of 100 med mal intakes that we take.
Yep.
Because the act makes it difficult to pursue and even more expensive to pursue those than it does the regular injury cases.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mentioned earlier that my early days in my career with Bill, I was mediating cases here. Okay. And I don't know if you remember this, but it was actually here in this room where the first time I heard your client is too fat defense.
Yeah.
And you laugh. I know, but it's
I know. No.
Yeah. She had bad knees. And I was, oh my gosh, I was probably 30, maybe just turned 30, didn't even have kids. And I heard that and I was like, I was floored. I was appalled, And that was the moment I realized that these insurance companies will do anything they possibly can. Try to save a buck.
Yeah, I feel bad categorizing all of the insurance companies together because you and I we know some good people that work for insurance companies that try to do the right thing.
Yep.
But the overall objective, they're kind of the outlier.
Yeah.
Because the overall objective is for the insurance companies is to take advantage wherever they can. Yeah. They're not there to be your good neighbor and to be your friend. They're there to take advantage if they can. And every once in a while, you get a supervisor, a superintendent, an adjuster who understands and goes to bat to try to get the case settled.
Yeah.
Because maybe they had a connection with it. But typically, they're doing video, they're videotaping your client when they don't know it. They're doing things to try to limit their exposure.
Yeah.
And they don't want to pay what's fair.
Right.
Particularly if it gets to a trial, because then you've got a lawyer on the other side who's motivated to beat down you and your client the most he can so that he can get more cases from that insurance company. Yeah.
Yes.
Once again, a lot of them are good friends of ours.
Right.
These defense lawyers, but they still have their job to do.
Yeah.
And some of them you can't trust at all. I mean, some of, not the ones who are our friends, but some of them, you can't trust them because they're going to do something to take advantage of you or your client when they can.
Yeah.
And that was one instance. I remember being at your first mediation in this room and meeting you. So that I did so many mediations that sometimes the facts and the cases get confused,
Right.
but a few of them stick out.
Yeah. And you've been doing it a long time, and then you were mediating the cases, and then 2014 you started litigating the cases. So very similar stories, right?
Yeah.
Something really bad happens to someone, and then they come to us, right?
Right.
Yeah. So,
And I've seen it. I mean, it is the mediation practice helped me. It helped me. It reinforced that my firm was doing things the right way.
okay. Yeah.
Because there are lots of firms that don't do things the right way.
Yep.
So I saw that in mediation. I saw that cases got settled for way less than they were worth with certain firms and certain lawyers who hadn't worked it up properly, or they knew would never take it to trial. The insurance company, because I'm in the room with the superintendent, I'm in the room with the risk managers, the supervisors, and they're saying, they're not going to try this case. I'm not offering X dollars. And I'd say, they might try this case. Well, they're not. I said, well, they might get somebody who can try this case. Well, we'll find out if they do, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it did help me realize that, there's lawyers out there that do really good work. Your firm being one of them.
Thank you.
And there's a lot of firms that don't.
Yeah.
They don't work it up right, and they're just going to settle it. That's where mediation. When I talked earlier about there's a bunch of mediation trial lawyers now. Yeah, they brag about the cases they got settled at mediation, but they don't know what they could have gotten settled for at mediation.
Yeah.
Because you have a good case, the insurance company's going to pay you money.
Right.
But they might pay the top-notch lawyers get more money than the other lawyers.
Yeah.
Because they're going to say, no, we're not taking it. We're going to trial.
Yep.
And they'll leave the mediation and they'll come back maybe and settle it.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the cases that you tried. Two in particular, the garage door case you mentioned.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that case. What happened and how that case worked out.
Yeah, that was a case where an electrician was asked by the owner of a warehouse on the west side of Indianapolis, West Washington Street, to come out and bring the abandoned warehouse up to code because he wanted to rent it out, wanted to lease it. So my guy's the electrician, and he goes out there. And he's doing work and running wires, and the garage doors are these big old warehouse wooden garage doors. They're heavy. And so he's tracing the lines of the relay lines.
Okay.
And he gets up on a ladder, and somehow something he touches shorts out on the railing.
Okay.
And it brings the garage door up. And his ladder is we did an animation of this, so we have it because it's very confusing. So we had it for the jury to see that his ladder is up on a truss. The garage door comes like this, and it pushes the ladder back into the next truss. And I forget now what our truss is, 3 feet.
Yeah.
3 feet or so.
Yeah.
So he gets pushed back. Well, it has him trapped there.
So he's pinned.
He's pinned back. It's hitting him right here.
In the chest?
In the chest, and he can't get the leverage to push it. So nobody's there. Somebody comes in later, and what had happened was eventually the door is pushing, and the belt's going.
Yeah.
And it burns off. Well, when the belt burns off, it releases the pressure.
Yeah.
He falls down and he's quadriplegic, breaks his neck.
So it was the fall.
The fall broke his neck. Because he was working at the time, his work comp carrier gets out there right away with these experts, and they take photographs of the motor and this and that, and they, thank goodness, they preserve the motor.
Right.
So I get a call when he's in the hospital. And I, like we do. So I say, well, let me look and see what happened here. Right. Not sure what happened. Come to find out, the motor to the clutch system, the
Yeah.
motor up top that runs the belt that pulls the chain to pull the garage door up, had been repaired a week earlier by professional garage door systems out in Plainfield. So that got us thinking. Our experts looked at it, and they saw something on the repair that maybe was done wrong.
Okay.
So we did two things. We thought the original wiring was wrong. The garage door company should, when they came out there to repair this, they should have replaced that wiring. And then we had that motor tested, and come to find out when they did the repairs to it, because that door was heavy, they ratcheted the clutch spring all the way down. So a technician adjusts the clutch spring because the clutch is a safety device.
Exactly.
When it exerts 20 to 50 pounds of force, and the way they test it, they hold it. They let it come down, and if you can hold it, it should then stop, go into what I call neutral. It's like putting your car in neutral.
Yep.
It zoom, the clutch comes out, and it just goes round and round. It's in neutral, and you can lift the door up and down. Nowadays, they have the sensors and everything, but they didn't. This was an old system. They didn't have the sensors. Well, this guy had been out there, and when I ended up suing them, took his deposition, he said, I kept tightening and tightening and tightening it. Well, we knew, our metallurgist said it was completely tightened, because any backing off of it, the door would not pull up. Right. It was too heavy. Right. So every time he tested it, he had to tighten it more and more. Well, it exerted between 240 and 600 pounds of pressure, that motor.
Wow.
And so we ended up suing the garage door company. And our theme was, let's see, what was this? Three words. We came up with our theme. It was repair. I can't remember the three words. But anyway, the last one was repair and test. Yeah. The third, I can't remember the first one. Diagnose, repair, and test, or something. And he didn't test it. No. He never tested it. So we had, working with jury consultants, we did 9, maybe 10 focus groups on this, and we were losing every one of them, because the juries kept saying, he's more at fault. He's an electrician. He should have cut the power to the doors. That's all he had to do, is cut the power, hit the breaker, and then you don't worry about a door coming up or somebody inadvertently hitting the door or something. And we were losing all of them until we started to figure out this. It was train, repair, and test. You got to train them properly, you got to repair it properly, and you can't leave before you test it. Yeah. So they didn't train this technician. No. At all. I mean, it was, when we put the requirements, our experts said what you should do when you're working on commercial garage doors, which is way different than a residential. Yeah. Like yours in my house, it's just little aluminum garage doors. Right. These commercial garage doors are a whole different animal, and our expert was saying to put somebody out there, they have to have this training, this certification, and this guy was on the job for 2 weeks. Oh, wow. Right along with his buddy, and then they let him go start working on these garage doors. So we really hit him. We finally figured out this train. They didn't train him properly. He didn't repair it properly, and he didn't test it. Yeah. And our theme was really to hit the garage door company and not hit the young man who did the repairs. Mm-hmm. And the jury started, the last couple they started to get to 50-50 liability, and then over 50. Mm-hmm. And they ended up at 70% liability in the garage door company and 30% on Ralph Parker. Yeah. And it was, the problem with the insurance company, because the insurance adjuster on that case was a friend of mine. Yeah. I took him to lunch, and I said, Joe, this case is a big case. Yeah. I'm going to lose it half the time. Right. And when I win it, I'll probably get 50% liability. So it's a quad case. you reduce it in half because you're going to lose at halftime, and then you reduce it in half again because of what the comparative fault. And I said, that's where the case should settle, and then I'll work on the work comp lien. And he said, Lee, I don't disagree with you on all that, but I'm never going to pay any money. We're not paying. We're going to win this case. We've focused it in and out, and we're going to win. Well, they focused the wrong thing.
Right.
They never got to the train, repair, and test.
Yeah.
They were focusing on this wire that he shouldn't have pulled, being the electrician. And they never got to that. And afterwards, they told me, they said, and in the middle of trial, we figured out, oh my goodness, I see where it's going now.
Yeah.
And they tried to settle toward the middle to end of trial, but their numbers just didn't work out. Yeah. So that was 2009, I think.
Yeah.
That case was 2009. It was a $30.5 million verdict, 23.5, I think, net.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a great case. And then you recently had another big verdict against Tesla.
Yeah, we had the Tesla case that went to trial just last April. It was a regular car crash case, even though it's against Tesla. It wasn't a products case. I did try a products liability case against GM in December for a seatbelt defect case that we lost. And this just goes to, what we as trial lawyers do.
Yep.
You're going to settle most of your cases, particularly most of your good cases. Your harder cases are the ones you're going to have to try.
Yeah.
And those are risky. And we put a lot of money on that case. And our co-counsel was excellent. You know him.
Yeah.
He put money in it. We put money in it, and we lost it. Yeah. So I had two big cases going back to back. And the Tesla case was just a left turn case by a Tesla service technician who was driving a Ford F-250. He was one of these mobile technicians that would drive around and either repair Teslas or tow them back to the service center.
Okay.
And he's on Rockville Road on the west side, again on the west side, Indianapolis out toward 465, and he's making a left turn into a lot next to a Speedway gas station to go fill up his gas tank. And he was on the clock. That's why Tesla was sued. If he wasn't on the clock, it would have been a case against the driver, Kyle's his name. But because on the clock, it's against Tesla, who's vicariously liable for the conduct and actions of their employee in the course and scope of their employment. And Tesla fought that. We had a summary judgment, and the court found that he was in the course and scope.
Because he was pulling into a gas station.
They were trying to say that he was not doing on company business at the time. Well, he testified he was. Right. He said it's their truck. I only drive it for their purposes. I'm filling up gas with their credit card.
Yeah.
I mean, so the court found in our favor. And my client was on a motorcycle who had stopped at the Speedway and was exiting the Speedway going westbound, and the Tesla truck was going eastbound, and he never saw the motorcycle, and he just turned and ran over him.
Oh my gosh.
Now his reason was my client comes out on a motorcycle, he looks to his left and waiting for traffic to clear, and he pulls in. As a white truck goes by him, he pulls behind the white truck in that lane. Well, there's another car back at the stoplight who is also there, and so this Tesla truck kind of just shoots the gap between the two. Oh. He doesn't see the motorcycle pulling out, and he's shooting the gap between the truck and the car that are in two separate lanes.
Yeah.
He could have. Luckily we had surveillance video from the Speedway there. That's and good. That was all on video. And we did not only an animation, but a complete recreation with an accident reconstructionist that could show exact speeds, calculate speeds, distance, time, sight vision, the location of the sun, all that. And he could have, had he looked properly, he could have seen the motorcycle coming up to the street, stopping, and pulling out.
Yeah.
But when the motorcycle got just right in the sight line between the truck and the motorcycle, he didn't see him for that instant. And the Tesla driver's testimony was the sun was really bright. I don't know. I might have blinked. I just shut my eyes and went.
How many times have you heard the sun was in my eyes?
Yeah, the sun in my eye defense. Yeah, that's one of the many defenses that you hear all the time.
Right.
Or he was flying, or I don't know where he came from, stuff like that.
So he said that the sun was really bright.
Sun was bright, and their defense, they came up with a defense. They did. We found this out later from one of the defense lawyers. They changed defense lawyers at least 3 times. Well, one of the defense lawyers came out with that they did a lot of different focus groups. Tesla's got a lot of money, and they started focusing, as did we. We focused it quite a few times too. But they came up with a defense that it was impossible to see because he was invisible. And they repeated this impossible and invisible all the time during opening. It was impossible for Kyle to see him because the motorcycle was invisible. When he pulled behind that white truck, he was invisible. And both experts agreed that once he initiated his turn, because of the feet per second and perception, he wouldn't have had time to stop.
Yeah.
So, and our experts said, once he initiated the turn, it was too close. They were within 2 seconds of each other, and he would have hit him because he couldn't recognize it and stop him, apply his brakes in time. And so I still don't know how, but the jury gave 30% fault on the motorcyclist who was in his proper lane of travel going under the speed limit. But our expert again did agree, because they could calculate it. He did what he called an aggressive pullout. Okay. So he was about 0.4 Gs.
Okay.
Regular pullout is about 0.2 to 0.3. But he said, Harleys are motorcycles. They do get up to speed quicker.
Yeah.
The speed limit was 45, and he was about 30 to 35 at the time of impact. And the truck turning got to about 11 miles per hour.
Okay.
So that's what the jury based their fault on. In my mind, they really based their fault on the fact that he's an unhelmeted motorcyclist with a prior unhelmeted motorcycle accident.
That came in?
Wasn't supposed to come in.
Right. Of course you fought it, but...
Fought it. Granted, motion in limine, the unhelmeted, but the defense threw it out there as a harpoon. We objected. Court gave a curative instruction, but it was in the jury's mind.
Yeah.
So
how can you cure that?
They got it out there. So they knew going back there, hey, this guy's unhelmeted, and he got hit once before without a helmet, had a head injury before. Nothing's related, but they got it in through the neuropsych, just saying, just threw it out there.
Yeah.
And then it was out there. So in my mind, they gave 30% fault. Not for the facts of the accident, but the facts of the whole incident.
Right.
But,
and you got to try that case with Nick Rowley, who's a very well-recognized trial lawyer. How was that? How was trying a case with Nick?
Nick Rowley is just a real force. Buddy Osha's a force. Nick Rowley's a bigger force. I mean, he's tried way more cases than Buddy Osha ever did.
Okay.
He started young, and he started his craft just getting to where he's very comfortable in front of a jury and just talks with them, can go just pick a jury, give opening, take witnesses. So it was a unbelievable experience to try a case with Nick Rowley, who's had not $60 million verdicts, but hundreds of millions of dollars verdicts. And one, I think he had a $2.1 billion verdict that was just reduced, but it's still a $2 billion verdict.
Yeah.
And he has a good team behind him. His paralegal, his staff, Karen Zaka, his partner. I mean, they come in and they work the case really hard. I had worked the case, me and my associate partners had worked the case for about 4 years, 4.5 years before we brought Nick in to help try it, because we had a trial coming up, and we were, Tesla is a scorched earth policy. I mean, they were trying to bury us, and it was working. I mean, motion after motion after motion after motion. And so Nick came in and helped with that, and was just excellent at trial.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes after people. He can cross. He can. The only thing is, he's not as he's not the Yosha meticulous where we know who's doing what the whole way through.
Okay.
He may take a witness or give me a witness as the witness is walking in the door.
Yeah.
So, like a neurologist, I had prepped the neurologist, met with him 4 or 5 times, knew what I was going to ask, knew what he was going to say, knew the exhibits I was putting up. And he's walking in the door, and Nick says, I'll take the neurologist.
Yeah.
So then he says to me, you take the life care planner. I mean, just like that.
There you go. Yeah.
But it's authentic.
Yeah.
He's personable, and he tells a human story to the jury. It's not a lawyer story. He's telling a human story of what happened to these people and inserting himself into it, his life experiences.
Yeah.
And I think he draws a connection with people that very few lawyers can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's change gears a little bit from trial. Let's talk about the Bar Association, the Indianapolis Bar Association. You're the incoming president, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit maybe about some of the plans you have coming up for the next year.
Well, the Indianapolis Bar Association is probably the strongest city metro bar association in the country. It has been strong for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Julie Armstrong took over from Rosie Felton. It was strong with Rosie Felton. Julie's even upped it a notch from there. And so we start at a really strong place. But bars around the country are struggling because of COVID. And younger lawyers maybe aren't seeing the benefits that older, more experienced lawyers got from the Bar Association. So we're seeing membership drop.
Yeah.
So my goal is to hit the younger lawyers, the law school, the younger lawyers with more membership benefits that we can provide, and show them that there's ways to connect with other networking, lawyers, client acquisition through the Bar Association that they can't get sitting at home or sitting at their office.
Right.
So that's probably priority number one, have more contact with the law schools earlier so that they start to hear and see what the benefits are, and the young lawyers, and just figure out how to engage them back to the Bar Association. Not that it's fallen. I mean, it's fallen some.
Yeah.
The membership's fallen some, but not significantly yet. But it worries me because every year the boomer generation, the millennials, and the Gen X. Yeah.
Gen X.
I mean, as the Gen X take over for the boomers, they're very strong in the bar. The millennials are strong in the bar, the boomers, and they're all going to start going out, and the Ys and the Zs are coming up, and they don't have that history. They don't have that familiarity.
Right.
So that's one of the objectives. Diversity is a huge objective with our Bar Association. Mm-hmm. I mean, you talked to Jimmy McMillan. I'm sure he talked about his impact. He was the second African-American bar president. Yep. So in our history, we've had 2 African-American bar presidents.
Yeah, and look at our demographics here in Marion County.
Yeah. So we need to be better, and I think we recognize this. We need to be better at being more diverse in our leadership and our membership.
Yeah.
And that's not easy. It's not easy to do. We've reached out. The Hispanic community, as you know, has become is a bigger part of our segment of our citizens here, and we've reached out. We have a Hispanic section in the Bar Association. You're trying to bring those people in. African American, the Black community is underrepresented in the bar and the leadership.
Yeah.
And that's a very difficult thing for the bar to do, because successful Black professionals are sought after.
Yeah.
All companies now or not all, but many companies want to show that they have diversity, because the public is kind of demanding that these companies and organizations have diversity. And so if you're a Black professional, you have your options.
Yeah.
So we need to show them that the Bar Association is a great option for them, a great opportunity to improve their career, in client acquisition, different firms. Me, the people who are involved in the bar make a lot of connections through the Bar Association.
That's right.
And it's been you do it for two reasons, I think. You do it to give back, because you are giving back, but you also do it for the networking opportunities.
Right.
Because we meet all these different lawyers who aren't in the same practice as you and I. We know all the lawyers in our practice. I don't know the estate lawyers, the family law lawyers, the criminal lawyers, but I know more of them from being in the Bar Association, the foundation, than I did.
Yeah. So, and what about some of your work with the local legal aid societies, clinics? Yeah.
I'm on the board, officer of the Indianapolis Legal Aid Society, and that's a fulfilling role for me, because, I'm on some other boards that give back to the community, but the Legal Aid Society is giving back to the community in the area that my profession is.
Right, right.
We're providing legal services to lots of people throughout the state now. It's Indianapolis Legal Aid Society, but we have tentacles because of technology now. We have tentacles in, I think it's almost 30 states. And those lawyers for the Legal Aid Society and the staff, they don't get paid the top dollars, but they're in it to really help these people who need our help with guardianship, family law, expungements, a lot of landlord-tenant problems that people that are disadvantaged, get taken advantage of in their housing situation. And we'll assist over 5,000 people a year. Yeah. And go to court, I think it's 40 times a week on average. Yeah. So, that's a huge benefit to disadvantaged people. The other thing it does is it's a huge benefit to the court system. Yeah. Because these people would be unrepresented, and every judge, every court administrator will tell you unrepresented people are a problem because they don't know the system. Right. They take more resources than it does if you have a lawyer. Yep. Well, they can't afford a lawyer, but the Legal Aid Society provides them a lawyer to make sure it's efficient when they go to court. Yeah. Changing gears just a little more, your office every year hosts a Christmas party. Most years. Yeah. Some years we don't. Like Kathy's son died last year, and we just decided not to host a Christmas party. But this office is, because it's built in 1868. Yeah. It's a big office with 12, 16-foot ceilings, and we have 17 Christmas trees. So it just lends itself to a Christmas decoration. Yeah. So we thought, we have the decorations, let's open it up to the lawyers and court staff, reporters, people that are involved in the legal industry, to come and enjoy themselves and just network, networking too, but socialize with those that they know. So we've done it most years. Yeah. Kevin Farrell is retired, right? I imagine working with Kevin Farrell, sitting in your office there and just constantly hearing jokes getting cracked. Like Kevin's probably the most unique person I've ever met, because he has a photographic memory. He can recite word for word, line for line, movies, songs, things, and he has this ability to do it in the same dialect and tone, imitation that the people who do it. In fact, I've seen him at trial where he'll put 3 chairs out in front of a jury, and he'll jump from chair to chair being one of 3 different witnesses. And he'll talk like that person and say what they're saying. Then he'll jump over here. Then he'll jump over there. And then he'll jump back and forth.
Oh, my gosh.
So he's just such a wonderful human being. Another East Side boy, grew up here on the East Side, and is hilarious. Yeah. I mean, he's smart. You can go in and ask him about a case or a law or something, and he has the capability to reduce it to lay people. Right. As opposed to being up, a lot of smart people are up here. Yeah. He brings it down and can put it in a funny context where you remember what he said. Yeah. Not the most productive time when you're with Kevin because he's telling you story after story. Yeah. But he's been wonderful for all the staff, all the lawyers that have worked with him. Yeah. Younger lawyers who have learned from Kevin. Yeah. Well, Lee, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the show. If any of the listeners wanted to get a hold of you, how can they find you? I'm at Christie Farrell Lee Bell here on 951 North Delaware Street. Yeah. So they can look me up. My name's Lee Christie. Yeah. My partner who retired also, his name was Lee, which is why it's now Christie Farrell Lee Bell. Mm-hmm. Kevin's retired. Kathy's retired. Yeah. But we have, we have really good lawyers here that have taken the place of the lawyers who have left and retired. And I'm happy to talk to anybody if they have an issue or a problem, even non-law related. Or, as you know, Alex, we get calls that aren't areas we do. Right. But we know people that we trust and feel are good, trustworthy people, lawyers that will take care of them. And we're happy to give that source or referral out to. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, and thanks for listening to Circle City Conversations podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more future conversations.